I'm going to. Okay. So, yes, we're live now.
All right. So that's good. All
Yep.
right. Hey everyone. So now,
Hello.
Hello.
so we'll get started in a little bit, everyone. For everyone that's here, thank you for joining us tonight. And this is our first stream from Kanme Studios, and it'll be archived, so you guys can catch it if you miss it today. So we'll start around like 12:05, wherever you are in the world. That's in a couple minutes, and then we'll get right into it, and you guys can learn the wonderful process of creating comics.
Sorry, where's the link that is there the YouTube link on the event page?
Okay. Alrighty then. So everyone,
Okay.
let's get started.
Mm-hmm.
Once again, for those who are joining us tonight, thank you so much. This is Kanme Studios' first stream. We want to welcome everybody, and for anybody that's watching the archive, thank you for taking a look-see at this. And you know, today we're going to be discussing comics, how to get started with comics. My name is Yam, um, and I'll pass it along to everybody else here. So, Usogami, you can quickly introduce yourself, and then we'll talk about ourselves a bit.
Yep. I'm Usogami, and I handle most of like the website design, kind of like the more pretty much the design that's not the comics themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, that's pretty much what I do. Just short and simple.
Yeah. And then tonight we have our current artist that works with us at Kanme Studio, Alan Bay, all the way from Singapore. Hello from the future. Only I had 12 hours now that we're on the same day.
Hi, yes, hello everyone. It's like 12 p.m. Saturday here in Singapore. Yeah, I'm the artist who have been working on some of the comics like Boom Shaka and another upcoming comic. Yeah, and a short intro of myself. So basically, I was a video game artist. So I work on games like Ninja Turtle, Assassin's Creed, like Romance of Three Kingdom. Then after that, I became a freelance comic artist, and then I got to know Yen, and that's how we started on Boom Shaka.
Well, I didn't give a descriptive introduction to myself, but I guess I saved the best for the last for myself. So my name is Yam again. I am the founder, creator of Boom Shaka, Luna Tide, and other future works at Kanme Studios. I write and come up with all the ideas for a lot of the story. Um, I've been writing since I was in the third grade of elementary school, and writing has been my passion and something that I really like and enjoy for a while. Unfortunately, like most people who are passionate about writing, I had to go a different path first to get to where I am today. But writing has never been something, and creating has never been out of my sight. It's been a dream I've been chasing for a while. You know, no matter how many different ways I go, I always end up back here. I love creating. I love creating stories for people, for them to enjoy and kind of escape and have fun mostly. So this is Kanme Studios is basically just the creation of all, and I've met great people. I've worked with a lot of great artists, such as Alan, and met Usogami through a friend.
Mhm.
So we've been working together for 3 or 4 years now on what you see currently with Boom Shaka, and you know it's been ever going. It keeps me busy. It's sometimes a little hard to keep busy with my family and work, but I still keep at it, and that I'm gonna keep chasing and pursuing my passion and my dream as long as I can. So that's basically my background here at Kanme Studios. So unless anyone else has any questions, let's go to the comments. Anyone have any questions at all? And we have no questions. Pretty much a clean slate. I guess I'll ask the first question. So let's see here. You know, what got everyone started on what we do. So I'll go first. So I really like shows, like TV shows. I like video games. I used to write a lot of fan fiction. Recently, we released something for Final Fantasy VII. I'm sure you guys have played the remake. I used to write a lot of Final Fantasy fan fiction. So that's what really got me started in terms of writing. And I would like write and create stories with friends. So that's kind of like what got me started on that. I guess I can pass the ball down to Usagami. He can talk about how he got started and why he's doing the things that he's doing right now.
Mhm. Yes, so I've always liked art. Um, Specifically, for my start, it was more on the character design aspect of a lot of things. But that eventually evolved into kind of like more on the graphic design side, doing like book covers or like logo design, packaging design, and like creating websites from the aesthetics point of view. Um, yeah, I did try going to like strictly web and found I don't like coding, but I still love the art aspect of like layouts and all of that. So that's how I got my start. But yeah, I'll pass the ball over to Alan now.
Um, for me, I always been interested in drawing, especially comic. Like my first comic, pretty standard, is like Dragon Ball Z. So I think I read the first Dragon Ball when I was like maybe like 7 or 8 years old, and I think I sort of started drawing like my actual comic or like fan comic when I was reading like towards the end of the comic, like I forgot what is it, but I was like when I read it, I kind of like didn't like how the story went. Then I was like telling myself like, why don't I just try to draw my own version of the Dragon Ball? And I started drawing in my like my exercise book, and like I think that was like my first little comic. Yeah. And after that, because I studied video game related stuff, so I'm also into video games like character design, environmental design, and but after that, I realized that I like to do more of like a sequential art, more like storytelling and yeah, storytelling and like comic drawing. So that's when I decided to go into like a full time like comic artist illustrator path. Yeah.
Yeah, so it sounds like we all had something that got us going in terms of what we're doing, whether it's writing, creating, graphic design, or drawing. So,
Yeah.
and I think that it gets to our next point. So, everyone's here, so they want to know about comics and how do you get started. It's not even forming a team or anything, that comes along the way. It's just how do you get your idea started. So, everyone has their inspiration and they always want to try to kind of do what they like. And the hardest thing for me as a writer, I like doing original things. I like being unique. That's just kind of my staple in terms of what I do for my writing and what I do for my creating. So sometimes it's hard to be your own unique thing, since there's like so many stories that exist out there in the world, and someone will always compare it to something. I remember a lot of people used to compare Luna Tide to Avatar. They would say, oh wow, they're using magic just like Avatar, it reminds me of Avatar, I really like this look, very old oriental style comic. So it's always hard to kind of be original. But if anything, I think the most important thing to have down is write down your ideas, what inspires you, and then go from there. It doesn't matter if it's like super copied, like it's your story, as long as you're not putting like the characters are from the original like ideas, like from video games or anime or manga, you're fine. Don't let anyone discourage you. I think this is the most important thing. And a lot of people uh, always try to shame you for doing that, but you shouldn't. Just write, draw, or do things that make you happy. And that's all really matters in the end. So as long as you enjoy it, number one, then it doesn't matter what anyone else really thinks.
Yeah, I
So
think it's very important to write down what concept or like just sketch down whatever concept or idea you have, because they usually happen at like the most inconvenient time, like you're having a shower or you're sitting on the toilet bowl or you're just about to sleep, so that you always tend to forget about it. So it's always like good to like write down whatever stuff that is in your mind.
yeah, I guess I've thought of an idea on the toilet bowl in the shower too. Everyone's done that if they've done this. You think about something, and like you said, Alan, it happens out of nowhere. So it's always good to have something to write something down, even if the idea is super crazy, like spaceship things, or like people who use beatboxing, making sounds with the just write it down. There's such crazy stories, ideas, and out there, so don't worry
Like
about it.
so
Yeah,
like Sharknado, who would thought that Sharknado would be so popular?
right. Sharknado, man. Yeah, stuff like that. It doesn't matter. So the most important thing is your starting point, whether it's drawing something out, writing it, or writing or getting ideas. It's always good to list it out. So I mean, when I was thinking about Lunatide and Boom Shaka, now given these stories, I've thought about for at least like 10 years at least. So nothing comes like that instantly. A lot of work, a lot of writers, and a lot of artists work on this for quite some time. It's not a very instant thing that just happens. If it is an instant thing, then you've got like the great story and great ideas, you can go for it. But normally these things take there's a process to it, and that is the starting point. It's just getting the ideas out, getting the concept art down before you even go forward with anything else. It's doing the research. So I think that's one of the most important aspects of getting started, is definitely knowing where you want to start. So, man, I wish I had some of the older super drafts of Boom Shaka, but it's mostly the same concepts. So don't worry about how your story starts, because eventually it'll change unless you're really dead set on things. But other than that, I mean, I think, again, I can't emphasize how much. Just write it down. That's the most important thing. If you don't write it down, you're gonna forget it. You're gonna forget your idea. It's gonna be gone, and you'll be like, "Oh man, someone did something like that. Oh well, I wish I did that." And you might be like, "Oh, that stinks." Yeah.
Mhm.
And I think the next thing in terms of like the creation process is, figuring out what kind of story you want to tell. You know, what is the kind of the theme for it? So for something like Boom Shaka, we're gonna go a supernatural route, an action
Mhm.
supernatural route. It's kind of a really weird mixed combination, but it's stuff like that. We got Kenji, and if you've been following so far, Kenji's gotten himself some trouble. So you have like a troubled main character, because always the starting point is always the most interesting, in my opinion, of the story. Because then at least when you look back, you can see the progression of the character, you know?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, the beginnings are usually what I also find the trickiest to write, just because it's always that first step.
Yeah. It is. I know you and me, when we were going through this,
Mhm.
redoing Boom Shaka and going with this idea. It took a little bit to kind of like hash out
Mhm.
all the ideas in before we went out to go search for an artist and find Alan. It's just it is a process to get it
Mhm.
going, and eventually, as we do more of these streams, we can go more in detail of the process of that. But I'll try to I'll show you guys kind of a draft of how I kind of got, yeah, the concept of Boom Shaka together in a little bit. But if you, for example, can only write, don't be discouraged.
Mhm.
If you want to teach yourself how to draw, that'd be a great time. I mean, especially now with the quarantine, there's a
Mhm.
lot of time. So you could teach yourself how to draw. It doesn't matter if it's stick figures. There are even comics out there where they're stick figures. As long as you're enjoying it and the story is fine, it doesn't matter if it doesn't make sense. Sometimes it's all about the process and practicing and keeping it, doing it. I'm not the perfect best writer, but I figure that if it's a skill, you always have to work on your skill. Otherwise, it'll get rusty, and you'll forget an idea. Especially if you're doing really well with a writing, it's like, oh, this is really good, and then all of a sudden you stop and then you try to go back to it. It's like exercising a muscle. You can't just go back to the gym if you haven't been to the gym for like months. It's going to be sore. It's going to be hard after the first day. So um, I think that's something that a lot of people don't take into account. That like, oh, I don't have an artist, or I draw really well, but I can't tell a story. Okay, I'm just gonna give up. At least have to try it. At least make the effort, even if it's you know, don't discourage yourself from it. Um, for me, what I tried to do is like, if anything, I tried to draw. I know I wasn't going to be the greatest artist or anything like that, but I always tried to kind of like draw what the character should look like and how the character should act, even if it wasn't the most perfect art. At least you have a little bit more to kind of show your idea, and it's like, okay, and it kind of gives you more like confidence. It kind of brings the character to life, even though it might not be the most perfect example of it. At least you're like, okay, this is what the character looks like now. Okay, now this start is starting to get a little bit more interesting. Now I have my main character, now I have the main bad guy, or I have his romance, or it's so again, that's another important part, is the starting point is always kind of continuing and creating new starting points with the various creation process.
So how do you actually get to learn how to write it in like a proper like comic manuscript?
So for me, when I was doing it, it was I write in very different ways. I'm always trying to evolve my style, especially with the scripts that we work with now. Uh, uh, how I used to write, I just write, and there would be characters just talking and talking and talking, and I would put actions here and there, and then I would roll in my mind because it was only for myself. But for the panels, I think it was best said for one of my friends is every panel and every page should always kind of help tell a story. Like the page should tell a story, but also help the other story. So I try to visualize in my mind, especially since I don't draw it down. I try to visualize what is going on. What are the characters doing at that time? What is going on? What is the bigger story between the smaller stories in the panel? So for in the beginning, like in Boom Shaka, we have Kenji, and he's already on the airplane going somewhere. That's his start, and he's trying. He's remembering why he's on the airplane. You know, and you see that he might be upset that he's leaving his home, but you at least see why he's leaving. It gives you an idea of the story. He's not leaving because he was being bad. He's bad because he beat up all the people, but he's not bad in that way. Kind of like that's kind of like the story. I really do like that start. And I wouldn't have done it if I had just stopped. I had to keep writing and keep thinking, and then wonder how's every panel and how everything that Kenji is doing is making a big impact for the reader. And I do think, in my opinion, if the takeaway you should take from the first introductory chapter of Boom Shaka is that Kenji, he tried to do the right thing, but he got punished for it. He tried to save Christine and help her out because she was being hurt by her ex-boyfriend, and because he stepped in, he got involved, he got in trouble, and he got sent away. So that's kind of like one of those things. Like it's very, like, as we want to call it, kind of like very layered. What's going on?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, because when I got the manuscript, it's like quite like a well done manuscript. It's like easy to understand. Where I know like what the what you're trying to convey within each panel, and it's like all the panel and like sequence are like already well planned.
Hmm.
Like yeah, I know like which panel are like more important, which panel that you want to emphasize. And I think that's important not only for writers but for comic artists also. Because like sometimes I have writers or fans who say that he want to write a comic, but when I see his like manuscript of writing, but it's like it will probably take like a lot more effort to actually to break it down into like a comic or a sequence kind of thing. Yeah. And for comic artists, we like to draw like in like thumbnail. That sometimes might not be the best option because we focus so much on like how pretty they should look that we sort of like neglect like the actual story flow and stuff. Yeah. So I think it is good that everybody should try to learn how to write like a proper manuscript. Yeah.
Yeah. And it also comes with the experience. You're an experienced comic artist or an artist, and I'm an experienced writer. It's a process. Like I say, it's a practice. When you get started, you might think, "Oh man, my writing sucks," or "My art is terrible." But trust me when I say this, you have to keep doing it. And don't be hard on yourself. The worst critic is yourself at the end of the day, not what anyone else said, because you created it. Who cares what other people think? The person's opinion who matters the most is the person who created it. And if you don't enjoy it, then how can you keep writing it or keep drawing it, or keep working on it? That's the manuscript when you brought up, that's experience. I before I did Boom Shaka, I did Luna Tide, and I'm sure a lot of people remember Luna Tide, and I'll get to that sometime in another stream. But Luna Tide was the first comic I did, finally got my comic out there, and that it wasn't the first comic I wanted to do, but I did it anyway because I thought Luna Tide had a very good character driven story. There are not too many characters in Luna Tide, but a lot of people do like Mayume, for example, I would say the main character of that story, and what she's trying to do and why she has so much like opinion on this person that's come into their lives. Again, another layer story. It's just this thing isn't like instant. I sat on the toilet and I thought about it and said, okay, time to write Luna Tide. It took a little bit, and I needed to understand what is going on with the character interaction. It's not perfect, but at least it gave me an idea of how I want to create and write stories going forward. The first time they say is always the rough, or sometimes great, depending on your talent. But for me, it was a big learning experience. Especially, I didn't let it stop me from creating more comics. In fact, I let it lessons teach me to continue on with Boom Shaka and eventually other Kanme Studio comics that are coming down the line. I try to use those examples and always, like I said, almost try to reinvent and perfect what I'm doing. It's a ongoing process, especially with the creative process we do with drawing, with writing, with any graphic design. It's all about figuring out what works for you and how to keep growing. So with that being said, why don't we show some of the process of that? So I'm going to share with you the manuscript that I sent Alan many, many moons ago. Well, not too long, maybe like a year or so ago. So you can kind of see how it is. Now the process has changed a little bit. So I'm going to share application. Let's go to no. All right, you're gonna have to give me a bit. I'm gonna try to share here. No, stop sharing. That's not what I want to do. Ooh. All right, give me a second. Well, you guys keep going. I'm gonna try to share my apps. Can I share? No. Darn. Well, I tried to get the manuscript going. Let's see here. Technical application. Let's try this. No, that's not what I want. Let's stop that. Well, until I can get that going, what I want to pass the ball to you. Why don't you show some of like the concept art of Boom Shaka, for example, sort of like a how to get started kind of thing. So when you're drawing your characters or getting this stuff going, so I'll pass the ball on to you until I can get the manuscript together.
Okay. So, concept art.
Okay, I think I got
Maybe
it.
I can just talk about. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, I'll let you do that, and then I finally got it to work. So, haha, you go first, since I already had you go into it. So you can kind of show like concept art. Oh, it's
Uh,
so pretty.
so yeah. So before we see the manuscript, so basically this like I think this the cover for the for chapter one, or is it like one of the
Hmm.
inner
Yeah.
page. So basically, like the manuscript, what they will send me will be like a sort of like a description of like what and how they want the look and feel of it. So like on the top right will be like the sketch that I will send them. So basically like the basic layout of it. And once they're okay, then I'll do the ink and I'll send them again. And if they're okay with it, then I'll do the final like rendering and coloring. Yep, it's basically how the and for the comic pages, yeah, about the same process. So basically, I'll do the thumbnail on the left, and if they are okay, then after some iteration, then I'll do the inking, and in the end, the coloring. And there's also another version which they posted online, which is like the grayscale version. Mm. Yep.
What a great process.
What a great process.
Yeah, a lot more. It definitely shows you the kind of the layer of what's going on, especially when you're getting started. Just again, it's all process. You have to get started somewhere, so you can see the different iterations of the panels as they come together. Now it's my turn to show
Mm.
the script that came with it. Okay. All right. And 1, 2, 3, share. All right, guys. Here it is. The introductory chapter of that. As you can see, it says working draft, but this is the final draft. I write in this manner. Entirely for comics, you might have a different style, um, but this is one of the writing styles that I chose initially for Boom Shaka. As you can see, I have a page, I have a panels in terms of the action and what's going on. You know, and don't be discouraged. It's not everything's in detail in the art. As long, I mean, some people are like, I need everything and everything in there. So just know that the artists and the writers, everything are people. They can do all they can, but just know that some things you have won't be there. But don't be discouraged by it. As you can see, how I have everything paneled, and every panel kind of like sets everything up. And when Alan receives it, the panel should show the hostess, for example. And then here there would be some dialogue, and you would have the dialogue there. As you see more pages. For here in future iterations of when I do it, I try to keep it like when it's a new page, a new panel. So if it makes it easier to call out if there's anything that needs to be changed. So let's just say you really wanted this panel, the first panel of page 2 to be something, and it wasn't there. At least you could call to it and be like, "Hey, let's take a look at this panel and let's look at this page." It makes it easier, so when you need to communicate back with the artist and they understand what you're looking at, and then you can go back and fix it. So, but obviously this wouldn't have started if I didn't write this all down. So again, it's important to get your start going, to write, or to draw, or get your ideas down. Otherwise you got really nothing. You just got an idea that hasn't really evolved into anything. You can see here, like Christine Spitz, for example. And near the end, the last page, you see this panel was the letter that Christine wrote Genji as saying sorry that he had to go. So things like that, for example. And let me get back. So I mean, all of it, the process of everything, it's just just getting again back to the point. Just in order to really get started with comics, you have to have an idea. You have to have something to kind of create it. So whether just a couple of notes here and there, or just drawings. If you don't have it down, you can't really move forward with it. And then you can't really go and look for other people to help you. So obviously I couldn't do everything, so I had to find people that friends knew, or going to places like Reddit for this is or anywhere really, as long as you get somebody to kind of help your idea, and the most important thing is just being patient. I think that's the number one thing about this whole creation process of comics and getting started is just be patient with yourself. Not everything's gonna be done. Don't try to like demand yourself too much from other people and yourself. Sometimes it just takes time. Just you know, take your time, look back at it. If you like it, keep moving forward. If not, then don't force yourself if it's not it's not connecting with you. It's again, this is a there's we mentioned a lot of like connections and liking and passion. I mean, it's just like if you were working at a job you really like, you want to keep working at the job you really like. But if the job stinks, you don't like it, you hate it, you're not liking it, I mean, you're not going to have a great time there regardless. So it's all about finding the balance between the creative process when you're starting with comics or any sort of creative avenue that you go through. So, before yeah, go ahead, Alan. I'll let you do that, and then we'll open the floor to questions. And if not questions, we'll chat a little bit more, and then wrap it up, guys. So go ahead, Alan. Before I cut you off.
As well as you mentioned like earlier that we sort of met in the Reddit. I think this thread called comic collapse.
Comic collapse.
So basically, there's a thread where like people post stuff. It's kind of like a place where artists and writer both post for like both looking for opportunity and also looking for like other writers or like other artists. So it's a place where people can get to find each other and collab with each other. So I think one important thing that I would like to mention where like when you're working with others, like whether it's artist working with writer or writer working with artist, but I think it's more applicable to like artists working with writer, is that you should you have to like just clarify everything that you think that you might not be like 100% sure, like never assume things. It's like if there's anything that you're not very sure, like no, is the writer talking about this, like, does the writer want it this way? No, you should just like ask and not like assume that okay, I'm going to draw it this way and like they are going to be okay with it. Yeah, so that's why when we are working on Boom Shaka, like we keep doing like thumbnail, and we have like discussion like, almost every week or every other week, to make sure that there's no like misunderstanding or like miscommunication. Because I think there's some artists like they have this habit of not updating the writer or not updating the client with like a work in progress. Like they're kind of in like a sort of like a denial mode where they say that okay, I'm just going to keep doing and doing and doing. I'll just send them final stuff and like hopefully they'll be okay with it. Yeah, that's like not a very like a good like professional way of doing things. So like if you have any like, uncertainty or anything that you don't know, you should just ask. So don't have to be afraid of like feeling like, I don't know if you're feeling shy or feeling like you might look stupid or something, but then it's always good to like just clarify anything that you're not sure of.
Yeah. Back to the point where I was talking about the script. As the creator, as the artist or the writer, you're in full control. There's, unless you're like big time and other people are telling you what to do. That I would assume when you're starting at the very bottom part. You're not starting at like like a big company or anything like that. You have full creative control. Just be reasonable. Just talk it out. There's no need to get upset. No need to get in your feelings or anything else. I know it's a passion project, and a lot of emotion and a lot of time we're taking into it. So take some of that time, some of that energy to work together, and talk. Say, hey, I want it this way. I want it that way. because at the end of the day, like I said, it takes time to get this all together. You can't really rush the process. If you try to rush the process, you'll get what you'll get. Either nobody will want to work with you, or you'll get something that you really don't like, or you're like, oh no, what that no, you know, nothing's ever going to be perfect. So just be aware of like when you actually finally go out, once you have all your ideas, your everything going, and you start looking people up, just keep in mind on what you want and what the other people are willing to do and work with you. There's a lot of time, like we mentioned, that we have a lot of like communication. It's again, once you start getting going, there's going to have to be a lot of communication up for it, because otherwise, I mean, no one can read your mind. Me and Usogami, here and there, we're always talking about the story, and we review, and it's more of like my sanity check to make sure that things are making sense, and then I'll ask questions, and
Yeah.
don't be offended by questions. Questions are a good thing,
Yeah.
because they get you thinking. Because you can't just be like, oh, I just did this and that's it. Because you have to anticipate what your readers are thinking. Some readers are just reading and whatever. Some readers are looking for like higher meaning, and some people are really like examining what you're putting out there. So
Yeah.
if they're experienced and they know that, oh, this doesn't make any sense, they'll say it. This doesn't make any sense. You rather catch that ahead of time, and
Yeah.
again, it's all again the matter of just working together, taking your time,
Yeah.
and you know.
And it was always good to be open to new ideas and different interpretations of how something is written or basically shown in a
Mhm.
comic, and then just in general. Just because, like, if it's a new idea, it might be something you haven't thought of yourself and might work better than your other ideas.
Mhm. Yeah, and that's true. A lot of the stuff that I had originally for Boom Shaka, even some things late in the Luna Tide, and some of our newer stuff. I came up with original ideas, and they've changed it. They've changed, and it just happens. You can either accept it or you can't accept it. So there's really no in between. There's no maybe. It's either you really don't, or you're willing to accept some of the things that are going to be changed while you're doing this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because you can only cram so much into a panel. So it's okay as long as like the story itself is being told and it retains what you're actually trying to say in the story. It's perfectly fine. Alrighty then. From that end, I think we've talked much about start. Feel free in the comments here in YouTube or our Kanme Studios email if you have any more questions about like how to get started. Really, I know we've talked a lot and we said this and that, but again, the most important thing: write your ideas down, draw it down, have your idea when you think you have like the next great like story. If you can't do everything, then you can start looking for other people, and we'll cover that in the future. But the main important is having that start. If you don't have anything, what can you do? All right, then let's take a look at the comments, see if there's any questions at all. Doesn't look like there's any questions, and that's okay. So I'll pose some questions to myself. These are going to be more Conway Studio, and then ask questions to Usagami and Alan, and then that's basically it for our stream tonight or today. So for those who want to know what's going to happen with Boom Shaka and Luna Tide, first I'll talk about Luna Tide. Luna Tide is on hiatus. The former artist that we worked with, we parted ways. It was amicable, no ill will or anything like that. After Memories is done on our website, we haven't really promoted it too much because it had been on a previous run. But once Memories is done, that version of Luna Tide will be done. Whether or not we'll continue with it, it's to be determined right now. It's still like it was my start comic, so I definitely want to tell that story. I feel like it deserves its spot. I might do it from a different angle. I hate to really reboot it because I feel like rebooting it would be like kind of the cheap way out. So there's more. If I do continue Luna Tide, it will continue where it left off in book 2. So that will be kind of your insight on Luna Tide. But if I do anything else Luna Tide related, it might be more of a story centered on Mayume and her past. But that's basically to be determined at this point. For Boom Shaka will continue on. I've gotten a lot of good feedback. I'm glad you guys are enjoying the story. Uh, it makes everyone here really happy that we're getting some positive reception. I knew a lot of people like to see action and liking Kenji. So it'll continue on. I say keep reading this chapter, this entry. Obviously, if you have been keeping up with it, some new characters have been introduced, and we'll introduce them on our website very soon. So just keep posted with Boom Shaka. We'll keep working on it. And down the line, we do have another comic coming up. We'll probably give its own little stream to kind of introduce some of the characters and the concept. So again, just keep posted on Kanme Studios on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and our website, most importantly, to keep up with a lot of our works. Other than that, Alan, it was a pleasure to have you drawing our art. Usogami, as always, thank you for being a great graphic designer and working with me through the years.
Yeah.
Outside of that, I mean, I guess I'll pose you guys two questions, one question each, and then that will be it for us today.
Mhm.
So, Alan, let's see here. What is your favorite thing to draw?
I used to like drawing women.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably still women, but women of a wider type. No, not just like no sexy woman like with revealing clothes and stuff.
Yeah. Well, I'll try to keep that in consideration when I'm creating characters. All right. Usogami, what should I pose a question? Okay, I was thinking of this one. So, what is your favorite thing to eat?
Thing to eat?
Yes, your favorite meal or your favorite food.
Well, it would be a dessert.
Oh, it would be a dessert. Okay.
Yes, I can tell you that for certain. It's a question of which one. I think I like Napoleons a lot.
Ah,
I
okay.
like Napoleons or tarts. Tarts. Yes, tarts. As long as it has like a pastry crust and not the pie crust.
Oh, yeah. That sounds delicious.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, right now my thing has been ice cream and shakes. It's too much. It's too much on me.
Ice cream
It's
is
making-
good though.
Yeah, ice cream is so good. Oh
Yeah.
gosh. Yeah. Well, I think that's it for us today. Thank you so much, everybody who joined us in the stream. Please take a look at our archive. Go to our subscribe to our YouTube page, Kanme Studios. This is the first of many streams that we'll be doing. We'll probably go more on the comic route, what you do with your idea, and then finding out people want to know what to do next. I'm more than certain. So I'll definitely cover that. Another cool thing we'll probably talk about is website, how to go about your website. There's so many different ways, especially like spaces like webtoons that has really blown up in like the last couple years, especially with like Tower of God and what is it? What's another one? High School. Oh my gosh, I feel like so bad not even knowing this seems it's popular. But yeah, we'll cover those things because it's important to know because having comics for yourself is great if that's what you want to do. But if you want to share it with other people, there are different ways to do it. So we'll definitely cover that in the future. We may even do something fun like a writer's workshop or graphic design workshop or even a drawing workshop because I definitely would like to draw. And we've got a great artist here, Alan, and a great graphic designer in Usogami. So, stay tuned. Again, thank you, everybody. Thank you, Alan, for joining us from the other side of the world. Usogami, thank you so much.
Yep.
Everybody here, thank you for tuning in, and we hope to do more and see you guys later. Keep reading and stay tuned, guys.
Yep.
All right.
See you.
All right. Have a good one. Bye.